You're welcome to the Economy and Politics show. I'm Otu Abasekong. The ability for a nation to conduct elections without recourse to violence is critical to the development of its democracy. In this edition, we're looking at the pathway to peaceful and credible elections, particularly 2015 general elections in Nigeria. But first, we're looking at the registration of voters. Last week, the Independent National Electoral Commission Chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega, in a press conference, confirmed that a total of 68.8 million registered voters will be eligible to participate in the February 2015 general elections. From the ProShare analysis, this is minus 6.4% lower than the 2011 elections that had about 73.5 million registered voters. There are concerns from this analysis. The first is that of disenfranchisement. The second being the fact that will the three states prone to terror, namely Yobe, Adamawa, and Borno, participate fully in these elections? And number three is what will be the fate of the internally displaced people who have adversely been affected by the terrorist activities of Boko Haram in these three states. Now we go on to the workshop on non-election violence that was conducted or organized last week by the Independent National Electoral Commission. This was the road towards the peaceful 2015 general elections, considering the effect of the last 2011 elections. They believed that this would be a platform for all stakeholders to look at how elections can be conducted without violence. Leaders that attended this forum were former United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan, and also former Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, Mr. Emeka Anyako. It was a critical moment to brainstorm on the electoral process in the country and also look at ways of having elections without violence. President Goodluck Jonathan of the People's Democratic Party and General Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressive Congress, the key contenders, were also in attendance and also signed the peace accord alongside 12 other presidential candidates to ensure that this elections is free and devoid of violence. For President Jonathan, it was an opportunity to talk to all politicians and advise that they avoid inflammatory comments or statements that could trigger violence in the elections. He also urged the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure that the election is credible and free and fair. For General Muhammadu Buhari, considering the fact that he has contested the 2003, 2007, and 2011 elections, it was an opportunity for him to share his experience, but particularly harp on the need for the electoral practices to improve alongside the judicial process, and also wondered why there was no amendment for the 2015 general elections, considering the fact that the 2003, 2007, and 2011 elections had the electoral amendment. Now we get to the campaign trail. Now this campaign trail is getting very interesting, and for those of us that followed the US elections between President Barack Obama and Governor Mitt Romney, we're seeing that between President Jonathan and General Muhammadu Buhari as they travel across the country to carry out their campaigns and also woo the electorate. For General Muhammadu Buhari and his running mate, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, it is the central message of change. And that change is embedded in the fact that the All Progressive Congress, if voted into power, will break the vicious cycle of corruption, insecurity, and unemployment. For the ruling party, with its candidates, President Goodluck Jonathan and architect Nnamdi Sambo, Vice President, has been preaching the message of continuity, particularly looking at the scorecard of the transformation agenda, and also a pledge to sustain the principles of the rule of law. The campaigns have become very rigorous and intensive, and a lot is being done to ensure that even undecided voters would make up their minds for who they will have to vote on the February 14th general elections. But one interesting part in this campaign is the promises, particularly on job creation. Considering the fact that Nigeria has a massive population of youth, there is need for job creation. And for the People's Democratic Party, they've committed to 2 million jobs a year if voted into power again. And that means that by 2019, they should be creating 8 million jobs. How realistic is that? Also, for the All Progressive Congress, they've promised to create 720,000 jobs a year. That, by approximating that, would be about 4 million jobs. And so when we look at the two analyses on job creation, we would need to comment on the reality, practicality, and also the visibility of this. But I believe Nigerians would keep record of this and also want to see how both parties, or either parties, if they are voted into power, will achieve the job creation plan. Now, last week was quite a terrible experience for Nigeria as Boko Haram, the deadly sect, struck in Baga. Baga is a town in Borno State. Don't forget that in Borno State also, Chibok, a town where the girls from the government secondary school were abducted, over 200 of them. The story still leaves painful memories for Nigerians. And on the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, particularly on Thursday, the 15th of January, last week, President Goodluck Jonathan, in marking that day, surprised the nation and, of course, the entire world when he paid a surprise visit to Maidugri, the capital of Borno State. He used the opportunity to commend the Nigerian soldiers who have been in harm's way fighting and battling the insurgents. He also visited soldiers who have been wounded in the course of battle in the hospital, and also encouraged and assured the internally displaced people who have been adversely affected by the acts of terror, over 900 of them in the camp he visited, that their plight and condition will be given the utmost attention by the federal government. Despite the mixed feelings and conflicting views about the president's visit, some see it as political, others see it as belated. It is important to note that the president showed Nigerians that he's the commander-in-chief of armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And his visit, I believe, has uplifted the spirits of the internally displaced persons who, I believe, by this time felt that they were excluded from the country and were not valuable to the nation. Now we go to the debates. Note that anytime we have debates, it's a period for the electorate to really get insight to what the candidates have to offer and articulate their ideas. And so for Lagos State, it is clear that Lagos State is a template when it comes to gubernatorial debates in the country. They always see it as a serious platform to articulate ideologies and philosophies. And so the Anglican Church in Lagos State, the Diocese of Anglican Church, hosted the first series of Lagos governorship debates for the 2015 elections with 9 candidates in attendance. The key contenders, Chief Jimmy Agbaje of the People's Democratic Party and Mr. Kinwumi Ambode of the ruling All Progressive Congress Party in Lagos, used the opportunity to upsell their plans and strategy for the state. While Chief Jimmy Agbaje pledged to improve investment in the Human Development Index level, transform the transportation landscape of the mega city, and also promote an inclusive economic policy for the state, Mr. Ambode and his party assured Lagosians that the legacy projects of the All Progressive Congress will be sustained and will also improve the internally generated revenue structure to ensure it's robust and effective, as well as creating the enabler for massive jobs in the state. We look forward to further debates coming up in Lagos State, as it will be very interesting and intriguing. Also, as we conclude this edition, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, had a forum with business leaders in the country, reassuring them that despite the indicators of the falling crude oil price, inflation at 8%, and also the devalued naira, the country is determined to navigate through this challenge. We just hope that the political economic challenges we're facing, we will navigate through them. Now, I want to once again assure you that the stakeholders have shown maturity now. The most unique picture for last week was General Muhammadu Buhari and President Jonathan exchanging pleasantries, hugs, and handshakes, and sitting side by side. We believe that this display will encourage all politicians across the country to embrace peace and ensure that they do their best to caution their supporters and maintain the value of a credible election for which the Independent National Electoral Commission has committed to. That will be all for this edition of the Economy and Politics show. You can join the conversation, countdown to the general elections in February, by sending your mails to news@webtvng.com, and also our interactive social media handles, Facebook and Twitter. Don't forget that your vote is your power. The PVC must be utilized effectively. Go out and vote on February 14th for the presidential and National Assembly elections, and of course, February 28th for the gubernatorial and State House of Assembly elections. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.